Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's ID Vixen and you're watching Vixen Reviews. So today we have a really exciting review. It is Orange is the New Black, Season 7, the final season of the show. Oh my god, I can't believe it's actually over now. I've loved this show from the start. A few terrible seasons, but some really amazing ones. Before we get into this review, here is your spoiler warning. Guys, there will be spoilers throughout this, so if you have not seen it yet, please do not continue. I do not want to be responsible for spoiling the last season of this show and other seasons if you have not seen it yet. Of course, if you are watching here and you don't care, please continue. The choice is yours. But before we get into it, guys, if you are new here as well, please subscribe down below and of course smash the thumbs up button. Your support is appreciated. Okay, guys, final season of the show. There is a lot riding on any final season of any show. You want to give it like the proper goodbye to the fans. You want to tie up the story really nicely, which is, it's proven difficult for some shows in the past, but this show, in my personal opinion, I think they nailed it. I thought this was probably one of the best seasons the show has given us, and they tied it up really well. Now, I have noticed there have been some bad reviews and some amazing reviews, so it really seems to be a kind of either you love it or you hate it side, and I'm on the you love it side. Now, so much happened in this season. Like, I've tried to go over it, I did some test runs, and they were going, 20 minutes was the halfway point of discussing everything that went on in the show. So, this is the shortened view with the most important storylines of it. So this season that opens up with Piper trying to adjust to life outside of prison and life without Alex. She's living with her brother Cal and his wife Nori. First she's working as a waitress, then she ends up working for her dad, and she's kind of trying to repair the relationship she has with her father, he seems to be just so angry at her for going to prison, which is understandable. Being a parent and your child having to go to jail, it's obviously not going to be an easy thing. And an interesting storyline is between Piper and this woman called Zelda, who she meets through Nori. And they kind of start to develop a really good and close relationship. Like, Zelda seems to be really good for Piper. Meanwhile, on the inside, Alex was trying to stay out of trouble. And of course, she wasn't really doing actually too great of a job because Hellman tried to get her to sell drugs. And when Alex tried to frame Hellman for the drugs, Theo McCullough catches her and then forces Voz to sell drugs for her, but her drugs are just pills she stole from her mother, and then ends up selling chargers because it was Alex's idea. And this leads to McCullough falling for Voz. So even though the married couple of Piper and Alex are married and in love, they seem to have wandering eyes. And I suppose it is really difficult when one person is in prison and the other is on the outside and they're living their everyday lives. The other major story point is Daya is furious because Daddy is cheating on her, and she accidentally kills Daddy with drugs. And then Daya kind of takes over the prison as I'm gonna say queen of the prison. And we also get to see Tasty, and Tasty wants to kill herself, which is a very sad storyline, of course. And it's really horrible, but it shows the character development of Tasty. And she's facing life in prison. She just feels she doesn't have much to live for. Her best friend betrayed her, and it's for a reduced sentence, which she finds out when she becomes a receptionist for Ward Warden. Now, originally Hopper was supposed to get the warden position, which Alita was pushing him to because it would make her drug smuggling from the outside easier. But during interviews for the head guard position, Ward seemed to impress Linda, thanks to the advice of Joe Caputo, and ended up becoming the warden. Now, she really tried to be a good warden. She did some really interesting things. She closed the SHU, which released Red and Gloria. She implemented some programs, including a chicken farm, which Suzanne began to run, and a GED program, and a program that was run by Caputo, and kind of helping the inmates come to terms with what they've done and help them realize they were wrong and apologizing, things like that. Now Tiffany tries to do all the programs, and she doesn't like any of them. And the last one she does is the GED. We actually get to see some amazing character development in regards to Tiffany Doggett because we see that her father used to treat her like she was stupid and she couldn't do anything right, and she felt really stupid and she was really sensitive about this. And we get to see a huge vulnerability to the character. And this teacher convinces her that she can do her GED even though she's scared to take a test. And they learn she has dyslexia. And so she ends up getting a tutor. And because Tasty becomes Ward Warden, her past friend who worked at Storky's with her receptionist, she somehow gets roped into being Tiffany's tutor with her dyslexia because the prison, Polycon, who owns the prison, Linda, would not allow them to pay for a proper tutor for Tiffany. So Tasty had to do it, and she actually did an amazing job with her, and we get to see a really good bond develop between them. The other interesting plotline is Cindy gets her early release, of course, for ratting out Tasty, and goes to live with her mother and her daughter, Cindy's daughter Monica, who's Monica actually thinks Cindy is her sister. And of course, Tasty wants her revenge, so she sends out a letter to Cindy's daughter and telling her actually Cindy's your daughter, which leads to Cindy ending up becoming homeless essentially, even though she was on a really good path. But yeah, we get to see a really interesting development from Cindy, not Cindy, Cindy and Tasty really. And Suzanne seems to mature a lot, which is really great to see with the chicken farming. Like, it kind of gives her a new sense of responsibility. And when the chicken farm opens, Polycon decides to close the psych ward. And we get to see Lolly come back, that lovable character. And she actually becomes Suzanne's lieutenant in this chicken city type thing. Um, so Nikki, okay, so Red and Gloria are released from SHU and they start to run the ICE kitchen. Now, ICE is a place where people who are going to be deported for being in America legally are kept, and we learned that Blanca got moved to ICE, and Maritzia, who was out of prison, also got captured into ICE, unfortunately. So, with Gloria and Red taking over the ICE kitchen with the help of Nikki Morello and Flaca, they get to see where Blanca and Maritzia end up, and they're trying to help their friends get out. Now, Nikki develops a relationship with a ICE prisoner by the name of Shayna, and we also kind of see Morello. Kind of like she's constantly talking about her baby Sterling. She's so in love. She's living motherhood, and this is where a really sad storyline kicks in, and it's really interesting to the Morello character development. So unfortunately, the baby dies of pneumonia, and her husband Vinny has to tell her, and Morella goes into complete denial over it. And you don't blame her. I mean, but she was heartbroken, and she didn't want to face it, so she just pretends the baby is alive. She starts these fake Instagram accounts and posts pictures, and she's furious that someone keeps getting them shut down. And it turns out it was Vinny who was actually shutting down the accounts because obviously he was upset by them. Like he was facing to the reality their son was dead, whereas Lorna was just living in an illusion that no, he's still alive. And Vinny was trying to get her to see the truth, but she just couldn't. And it was kind of like the pushing point for Vinny, and he ended up leaving her and trying to get her to sign for divorce, which again, Lorna in her illusion, she doesn't believe it, and she starts telling people that Vinny's going to take her child, is going to take her away, and everyone's like, no, we're not going to let him do that. We're going to fight for you. We'll get you a lawyer. He can't do that to you. Everyone's really concerned for her. And eventually, Vinny gets Nikki to meet with him, and he explains to her the truth that Sterling is dead. And Nikki knows Lorna needs help, and the guards are going to send her to Florida. But Nikki doesn't want her to go. She wants to try look after Lorna because she's worried, because she feels like she's failing Red, who is also seriously deteriorated. She's forgetting things. She's making mistakes. And we later learn Red has dementia. And in the end, the two of them get moved to Florida within the prison, and it's really heartbreaking for Nikki because she wanted to look out for her family, and she feels like she's losing her family, and they're gone, and there's nothing she can do about it. And she's really heartbroken over it. So McCullough is become obsessed with Boz, as I said earlier. And she ends up showing up at Piper's house where she sees Zelda and Piper, who are just kind of coming back from a sort of date. They were at like a charity function thing. And, she's like, oh, I love Voz. And this forces kind of upsets Piper because she tells Piper that, like, Voz is only staying with her out of pity and she wants to really leave her and be happy with McCullough. And this actually gets Piper to go sleep with Zelda. But before any of this happened, a really important thing is we see the return of Larry and Polly, which I was not happy about because I really, really, really hate Polly. I think she is awful. She is an awful character. She's horrible. She slept with her best friend's fiance when her best friend was in prison. Like, it's just truly despicable. Just like Cindy betraying Tacy was despicable too. But yeah, like I get like Larry, okay, Piper cheated on Larry with Alex in the earlier seasons, but Piper didn't cheat on Polly, but Polly still went and slept with Alex, Piper's fiance. And I just thought that was like horrible. And like even when they bring back Polly and Larry, like Polly's kind of like she seems really stuck up and she's giving like this really irritating vibe of she does she's just annoyed and she doesn't want to be there even though she's the one who should really be acting like kissing Piper's ass and like telling her like she's so sorry, but really she's like she just doesn't seem to care and she's just a really horrible character in my opinion. um so while Doggett is trying to get her GED, Daya loses her pipeline of Hopper because Alita comes back into the prison and wants to be the queen of the prison. And Daya doesn't like this because she likes her role. Teams up with Eddiola as the boss, She loves it. She loves what she's doing. So she needs to get a new pipeline. And she tries to blackmail the teacher who's helping Tiffany get her GED and all the other inmates at Litchfield. And instead of like being able to blackmail, he actually quits. And Loose Check replaces him. So Loose Check is doing a terrible job of being a teacher, and he's also smuggling in drugs for Daya. So Daya's back on top. Not to mention, Tasty not only tutoring Doggett, ends up tutoring a few of the other girls who really do want their GED, and she actually does a fantastic job with them. Now, Tasty's still contemplating, she still wants to kill herself, but she has to get some stuff for Daya because she can't afford to buy the drugs off Daya. Now, she did earlier try to kill herself in the season, but she did fail, thankfully. But and of course, in her eyes, she was really upset she failed. But her natural instincts to survive kicked in, so she needs to get the drugs from Daya to finish the job of her dying. Now we also see a relationship between Joe and Fig, who are trying for a baby. The other interesting thing is Piper repairing her relationship with her father. I think I already mentioned it, but it's a really important thing. And it's really nice to see them kind of repair it together. And then the most interesting thing that really happened at the end was like Alex letting Piper go. And Piper is just distraught over this, Like she just wants to stay with Piper. She loves Piper. And McCullough is furious because Alex rejected her. Now, even though Alex and McCullough did have a relationship, for a few episodes, Alex still rejected her, and McCullough got her transferred to Ohio in the end. Now, this is where things kind of start to wrap up. So, at the end, what happens is Maurizia, we don't know what happens to the character Maurizia. One minute she's there, but she's upsetting the ice guards because she's helping people get out. And next thing we know, she's gone. But Blanca ends up getting out of ice. Thankfully, after fighting her case. Maria's still in jail. Gloria gets out of jail and gets to be reunited with her kids. Piper and Alex. Now, even though Alex set her free and Piper was distraught, she went around talking to people and she was like, I don't know what to do. Should I go to live with Zelda? Because Zelda offered her a place to live with her. I think they were moving somewhere. I can't remember where. And with Alex transfer, of course, it was really difficult. But in the end, Piper decided to stay with Alex because she loved her. So even though McCullough got Alex transferred, Piper still stayed with Alex because she really loved her, and they're like, for a moment there, you actually thought Piper was going to go be with Zelda, but she didn't. She couldn't give up Alex. She just loves Alex too much to give up to her. The other things that really happen is like briefly we see more of Maria's past, more of Red's past. We get to kind of see how Red is adjusting to life with her dementia. She actually comes across Frida, who's like terrified of Red, but then Frida realizes Red's memory's gone, so she's safe for now. Morello's living in Florida with Red. Nikki's in Gen Pop. The COs are still there. Hopper loses his job actually because Hopper was caught sleeping with Alita by Ward Warden, so she fires him, and Ward Warden then loses her job when a chicken kind of what they thought laid an egg was actually drugs, so she lost her job. So that kind of ties up Taste, and then Doggett dies. Doggett commits, well, she doesn't really commit suicide, but she actually dies of an overdose, unfortunately, because she thought she'd failed her GED exam. So Loosecheck was supposed to get her extra time for the exam because of her dyslexia, but he actually forgot to fill out the forms and stuff. And Doggett got so upset that she thought she failed. She thought she was stupid. She was furious. And then she ended up turning back to drugs and she OD'd. And it was a really heartbreaking moment that Doggett actually died. So Doggett died. Red's in Florida. Morello's in Florida trying to recover from her breakdown and her denial. Nikki's still there in Gen Pop, like I said. Blanca gets out of ice. We don't know what really happens to Maritza. Ward Warden loses, she's jobless now. Tasty's actually decides to live, which was great because, for the whole season it's so dark and you think she's gonna die. And then she decides she wants to live. And it's really, you're actually happy for her that she decides she wants to live. Now, this is where, so the character of Daya takes a really, really dark turn and she gets really kind of like evil. She's like the antagonist of the show almost. And she ends up, the reason Alita was put back in jail was she went to beat up her daughter Eva's boyfriend, who's 10 years older than her. The girl's 13, and I think her boyfriend's 23, and he's a drug dealer. So Alita beats him up and ends up breaking what she thinks was his car, but was actually some random person's car. And that's how she ended up back in jail. And then Daya ends up using her sister as her new pipeline to get the drugs back into the prison. And that's the point they kind of leave it at. So we really see the dark side of Daya there, which is like she really turned from this kind of nicer person at the start of the season to this really dark person at the end. We get to we see the return of Lolly, of course. We get to see, and then the show kind of ends with kind of seeing where everyone ends up. Like they literally show you. They don't do those things that most TV shows or movies do, where this person spent this serves the rest of their time, then they died, or something along the lines of that. They actually just showed you the current situation of most of the characters. So we got to see anyway pretty much everyone and where they were now, like Lolly, Frida, Irma, Yoga Jones, Gina Murphy, Big Boo, Judy King, Healy, Watson, Soso, Sophia, literally everyone. So we actually see what happens. We learn the fates of the people. We get to see how they're adjusting to life on the outside, life away from the prison, even the guards who aren't currently working for the prison, such as Healy, of course, who now works at like a juice thing. It was really interesting. So I'm really happy with how they finished the show. I thought they tied it, like they finished it off really well. I really loved the season. I loved the storylines. I loved what they did with Morello's character. And Vinny's character. It was so heartbreaking, but it was just so interesting, and that's what I loved about this last season. The character development, how interesting the storylines were. There wasn't a boring episode. The different turns the characters took. Someone who was so full of life, like Tasty wanting to kill herself and then overcoming. Doggett, like seeing the new vulnerability with her and her thinking she's stupid and everyone treating her like she's stupid, and how heartbroken she was because she didn't want to feel that way, and then losing her life, unfortunately. Cindy trying to pick up the pieces that Tasty broke as her revenge with her daughter Monica and her own mother, trying to prove that she's a better person now because she was homeless for a while and she just realized this isn't the life she should be living. Piper and Alex still trying to make a go of it. Blanca getting back to her Diablo, who was deported, even though she got her green card as a US citizen. She wanted to be with Diablo, and I think it's amazing they get to be together. And getting to see Gloria's life together, Maria bonding with her daughter and her boyfriend's new girlfriend, ironically called Maria as well. But yeah, so they tied it up really nicely, and the storylines just worked really well, and the character development was perfect. And that's why I really enjoyed this final season. And it was definitely probably one of the better final seasons from past, like, other TV series. If you look at the big loop, there's been some pretty bad ones, like Game of Thrones. That was a terrible final ending. But Orange is the New Black, they really nailed it, which was kind of like, it was a cause for concern because they did have some pretty bad seasons. Like, it was kind of one way with that show. They either had their amazing season, like the first season, or they had their really, really bad seasons, which in my opinion was the V storyline. I didn't think that was very good. And then they had this season, the last season, and they nailed it. They tied it up perfectly. It wasn't rushed. It happened at a good pace. Everything was interesting. Everything made sense. You saw the connections and like the character development. Like even Suzanne, she becomes like so much more mature and well adjusted. And I think that's amazing. It's great to see how well she's doing by herself now, and I'm just really happy for her. And you know, you really become attached to the characters, so to see some of them get their happy endings, it's great. You're delighted, and then the ones who obviously get their sad ending, it's heartbroken. You feel their pain, and that's the best thing about Orange Is the New Black. You get really connected to the characters, and you love them, and you enjoy seeing them and what happens to them, and that's what really made this show work. You get to see their lives in prison and their past lives, which was always so interesting. And I'm just so happy they finished this season, the show on a high. I really did enjoy it. I know not a lot of people did, but what can you do? Anyway, my personal opinion, this was definitely one of the better seasons of Orange Is the New Black, and I really loved it. And it's actually made me decide to go back, watch season one, and binge all 7 seasons again because I really loved it and I really enjoyed it. And I wonder, like, if you guys enjoyed it too, let me know in the comments down below. If you didn't, you didn't. But hey, my personal opinion, I thought this was one of the better seasons, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Now, I know, thank you guys for listening to this review. I know I kind of mixed it up in parts, and I'm so sorry, but like so much went on, it's hard to kind of keep on the right track of things. But thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to smash the thumbs up button. And of course, if you are new here, please subscribe down below. Your support is appreciated. Alright guys, this is ID Vixen signing off.